Moscow, October 14, 1964. The most powerful men in the Soviet Union sit around a green table in the Kremlin. At the center is Nikita Khrushchev, the loud, brash leader of a superpower who's ruled with an iron fist for nearly a decade. Someone calls for a vote. The question is simple. Should Comrade Khrushchev retire? Hands start going up, one by one. Almost every single hand in the room. And just like that, in a country where leaders typically die in office, the most powerful man in the Soviet Union is voted out. No violence, no bloodshed, just a quiet, calculated coup. But here's the thing. This wasn't some spontaneous rebellion. This was the final move in a conspiracy that had been brewing for months. And the craziest part, the men who orchestrated it owed Khrushchev everything. So how did it happen? How did loyal allies become ruthless conspirators? And why didn't Khrushchev see it coming? Let's rewind 9 months. The walk that changed everything. January 1964. Two men are taking a walk through the snow at a hunting lodge outside Moscow. Their names are Leonid Brezhnev and Nikolai Podgorny, and they're about to commit treason. Now, you need to understand something. These two men should have been the last people to betray Khrushchev. Brezhnev started out as a metallurgical engineer, not a politician. But then came Stalin's great purge in the 1930s. As thousands of communist party officials were arrested and executed, young ambitious men like Brezhnev climbed over the bodies into suddenly vacant positions. During World War II, he became a general. After the war, he caught the eye of one man who would change his life, Nikita Khrushchev. Khrushchev saw a younger version of himself and took Brezhnev under his wing. He promoted him everywhere. When Khrushchev took control of the entire Soviet Union in the 1950s, he gave Brezhnev two massive projects that could have destroyed his career if he failed. Brezhnev succeeded at both. Khrushchev trusted him completely. Podgorny's story is even more interesting. He was also an engineer, but his career almost ended in absolute disgrace. During the war, he was supposed to evacuate sugar factories before the German army arrived. But Podgorny was terrified of being caught in combat, so he stayed in his office and filed a fake report saying he'd done the job. When the lie was discovered, he was fired and his career was over. Until Khrushchev saved him. Khrushchev brought him back, rehabilitated his reputation, and eventually made him the head of the entire Ukrainian Communist Party. Both of these men owed their careers, their power, their entire political existence to Khrushchev, and yet here they are in the frozen woods, plotting to remove him from power.
They didn't just gain
Why?
allies.
When your patron becomes your problem.
Something dangerous.
By 1964, Khrushchev's leadership had become increasingly erratic and dangerous. His economic promises were failing spectacularly. There were food shortages across the country. One region literally slaughtered all its livestock to meet impossible meat production quotas, leaving them with nothing for the following year. It became known as the Ryazan miracle, and not in a good way. Then there was the Cuban Missile Crisis. Khrushchev had brought the world to the absolute brink of nuclear war. Even his closest allies were terrified. When it ended in what many viewed as Soviet humiliation, the resentment grew deeper. But what really pushed Brezhnev and Podgorny over the edge were Khrushchev's constant reorganizations. He kept splitting up ministries, shuffling departments, changing how everything worked. For the Soviet elite, these weren't just annoying policy changes. These reforms threatened their positions and power. And here's the opportunity they saw. Khrushchev was barely in Moscow. In just the first 9 months of 1964, he was traveling for 135 days. The ship had no captain, which gave the crew plenty of time to plan a mutiny. For Brezhnev and Podgorny, the calculation was simple. Doing nothing had become more dangerous than acting. The conspiracy was born on that winter walk. Volunteers recruiting the attack dog. But they couldn't do this alone. They needed more allies, and their first target was one of the most dangerous men in the Soviet Union, Alexander Shelepin. Shelepin was Khrushchev's protege, his attack dog. Khrushchev had promoted him to lead the Communist Youth League, then made him chairman of the KGB. Then, as if that wasn't enough power, Khrushchev created an entirely new super agency just for him and gave him authority over basically everything. But all that power had changed Shelepin. He no longer saw himself as Khrushchev's servant. He saw himself as Khrushchev's equal, maybe even his successor. When Brezhnev and Podgorny came to him with their plan, they weren't just recruiting an ally, they were unleashing someone who'd been waiting for exactly this opportunity. And getting Shelepin on board automatically gave them another crucial ally. Vladimir Semichastny, Shelepin's protege and the current head of the KGB. Think about that for a second. The conspirators now controlled the secret police. The one organization that could have exposed and destroyed them was now on their side. Over the next several months, they quietly won over more allies. Regional party bosses, members of the Central Committee. By autumn, the conspiracy had grown powerful enough to act. They just needed the right moment. Their Khrushchev's fatal mistake. And Khrushchev gave it to them. Well,